Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are showing off the Slickshot Show-Off. This is a new card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It's a 2-mana 1/2 flying haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and you can plot it for 2 mana, which means that on the next turn you can play it for free. So the idea of our deck is to plot this on turn 2, and then turn 3 we play this and a bunch of spells and try and finish our opponent. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. We're like a very aggressive Prowess aggro deck. So we've got Monastery Swiftspear and Nivmagus Elemental, which is another bit of a spicy one. So this is a 1-mana 1/2 exile an instant or sorcery spell you control, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So you can have a bunch of stuff like on the stack and then just remove it. So a storm spell, for example, we can ping them for a bunch. If we've got a Nivmagus, each of these is effectively 2 damage instead because we put 2 counters on the Nivmagus. So these things are all kind of doing the same job in a lot of ways of being a creature that can get big when we're casting spells. And because you want to play some free spells, we've got some interesting ones here. Mutagenic Growth, +2/+2 to end of turn. This costs us 2 life to play. Gutshot, we ping something down. It costs 2 life. Lava Dart, we can fire this for 1 mana and then sacrifice a mountain to get the flashback on it. So you can get 2 spells off for the price of 1. Then we just got our cantrips to set everything up, which is obviously where we want to be with the blue deck. We've got some counter spells and Force of Will and Daze, which can also be used on our big go turn to protect our threats, as well as adding their stats up a little bit. 2 Grapeshot we mentioned before. We're not going to get like enormous Grapeshots, but these can be doing reasonable damage to us. To our opponent. And this, this can be a reasonable damage thing that we can rely on. That's going to be, not the most amazing thing you've ever seen, but can do some work. Then we got some Flusterstorms, which is another great way of protecting because we're trying to play a load of spells. If our opponent tries to remove our thing, then we can fluster and protect it. And then if all else fails, tried and trusted Murktide Regent is going to be very good in this deck because we're going to be putting a whole bunch of stuff into our graveyard. We have 1 Lotus Petal. This is also a list that I found on the 5.0 deck dump from Legacy Leagues. This Lotus Petal, I'm surprised there's only 1 because I thought this would be the sort of thing you'd want with, your prowess spells. Seems like it makes a lot of sense here. But I'm going to trust that whoever's brewed this up has a bit of a better idea what's going on. We got 1 of each basic. We got 4 volcanics, and the rest is all fetches. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Try and do some cool stuff with the show-off and get our opponents dead. Sideboard-wise, we got some more free spells in the form of Pyrokinesis and another Force of Will if we need those, as well as the extractions. A couple of generic bounce spells, some Hydroblast to deal with some of these like aggressive red decks. Couple of Price of Progress, which can do an awful lot of damage against some decks. So I'm a big fan of having this here. I'm surprised there's only 2, if I'm being honest. Meltdowns for artifact decks, and Pyroblast to help push through some blue stuff, as well as deal with opposing Murktide Regents, which could be a problem because they'll be able to block off a lot of our threats that might not be able to outclass the Murktide. And that's it. That's the deck. I'm pretty excited to see this one. We've been trying to showcase as many new cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction as possible, so when I saw this list, I knew I would be jamming it as soon as possible. So, like and subscribe, and let's get to that jamming. Alright, our opening hand here has a Swiftspear, which is kind of one of the things you want. We're going to be relying on this Brainstorm, because I don't really want to get wastelanded with a hand like this. But I don't think we can afford to mulligan, because we're going to need a critical mass of things, and we do get to play our things. We're just going to have to play the let's not get wastelanded lottery. And if we're playing a threat on turn 1, we might not be getting wastelanded anyway. We could Brainstorm turn 1, but that is definitely a show of weakness I don't really want to give. It's either a show of weakness or our opponent has to do something immediately because we're about to win the game. Alright, in comes the Swiftspear. If we've got something on board, our opponent's less likely to wasteland us because then they're just going to be a land behind whilst we got a scaling threat. Although, obviously, the scaling is only scaling once per... Well, it only scales once when we cast spells. So it's not like it's going to stay large, like something like a Stalactite Stalker or whatever. Also, if we use the Brainstorm, we don't have access to our Force of Will, and that might be a thing that we need to lean upon. A City of Traitors. A Grim Monolith. I don't think we hit the mana here. Mox Opal. Again, I don't think we're hitting that one either. No additional follow-up. Intriguing. They don't have Metalcraft, so it's not a huge surprise. Am I casting this Brainstorm right now? We're looking for land plus blue card if we do that. I think it's worth doing. Because we need to develop our mana out a little bit. We did not find the blue card that we were hoping for, which is a bit of a blow. I think that means that we're just getting rid of this Force of Will entirely. Because we don't have a blue card to pair with it. We'll crack and go get ourselves another Volcanic Island here. Play this Swiftspear. Now, we could play this Lotus Petal and get in an additional 2 points of damage right now. Or we could play the Slickshot Show-Off next turn and get way more damage in. I think that's probably better. We can mess with our opponent's calculations a little bit that way. And we are showing blue mana, so they might not just jam straight into it. So they might take a turn off for something like a defense grid, which would be ideal for us, given what our hand looks like at the moment. So the Show-Off is going to hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to hit for 3 as well. And this is 3, so 3, 6, plus 5 is 11. This is 12. So still not quite at the old lethal stage yet. Do something like a One Ring here. Coveted Jewel, that's a pretty good one. This was the risk we took by casting that Brainstorm. So our opponent is most likely going to try and win this turn. Because obviously if we get access to a Coveted Jewel by attacking them, they're going to have a real bad time. And our opponent knows that, so I'm imagining they're going to string together a bunch of spells, a few more copies of this Coveted Jewel via like Phyrexian Metamorph and copy Artifact. Keep drawing cards, keep making mana, and then eventually kill us with whatever they fancy, really. We're probably not even going to see their win condition. We'll probably scoop before then. But this is an awkward one where it's not a deterministic combo once they start doing this stuff. They do need to actually just keep playing spells and find the right cards. Now, if they can assemble Paradox Engine and the One Ring, once they've tapped the One Ring a couple of times, that's usually lights out. Show and tell. Okay, I'll put in this guy. This gives us some more damage next turn, because that frees up 2 mana, so we can get this Grapeshot off as well. I don't think we're getting another turn, like I said. But if we do, we can win the game, I believe. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then this one pings for the rest of the damage. Now, obviously, our opponent has protection, so that's not really going to wash here. But we might not be dead this turn, but it might not matter, because we're not going to really get another meaningful turn, because the One Ring's just going to pop off in a big way. However, this is a thing we get to get. It doesn't matter if our opponent has protection. We can still attack them and steal their 3 Coveted Jewels, and we're going to draw 9 cards, which can find us a lot of counter magic. Our opponent is a blue deck, so them having counter spells is certainly a possibility. So I think we're just going to attack. We'll attack with all of them, just in case there's any funny business. I want to make sure I get all these Coveted Jewels. Okay, we have a lot of cards here, so I think we are playing some of them out. But we need to wait till we go to our main phase for that, don't we? So we probably start by making blue mana here and casting a Brainstorm. See if we can dig into some of that counter magic. Not really, is the answer to that one. We don't need all of these fetch lands, so we can put one of these fetch lands back. There's possibly a world where our opponent goes low with some stuff and we get a gut shot that does something. That seems very unlikely though. But it's not completely out of the realms of possibility. And we'll chuck back this Nivmagus Elemental. So play this land, crack this, go and get ourselves a Volcanic. Using this blue, I would like to cast another Brainstorm. Well, that's not really doing it for us. So I'll put these 2 back, and we'll cast this Ponder. Any order and shuffle, please. We're looking for Force of Will. We did not find the Force of Will. So now I think we tap this for red. I would like to plot this and deploy a Nivmagus Elemental. We have very much a lethal amount of damage if we get another turn. So we need to get a cleanup. I guess we'll get rid of this land. We probably don't need that one. If our opponent's got some kind of ensnaring bridge, I am incentivized to keep Grapeshots so we can finish our opponent that way. I think we need these 2 Swiftspears. We need to beat the One Ring here. So our Flusterstorm can interact with things like Show and Tell and the Transmute artifact as well. So not all is lost. So a good thing about Flusterstorm is where we can play a load of spells, cast a Flusterstorm, and then exile all the ones we don't need to Nivmagus Elemental as well. Just something cool I didn't really mention in the deck tech. We can use that to target our own spells and then Nivmagus our way out of it. Okay. Ancient Tomb. So play another copy of the One Ring. That's obviously going to be a sad state of affairs for us. Our Flusterstorm is likely to be a very hard counter given the amount of spells our opponent plays. There's a lot of Storm going to be generated this turn, I would imagine. And hopefully we can hit like a crucial transmute artifact. Another copy of the One Ring. We cannot interact with that because we did not fire one of our Force of Will, despite seeing, what, 18 cards last turn? Alright, we're back to this. A Mutagenic Growth. That's not really the one we wanted, is it? Okay, we'll play this out. We could play out the Slickshot Bird, but we might as well keep that. There's no point attacking here because our opponent can't take damage. Okay, so they're going to take 2 from the One Ring in their upkeep. We have 3 direct damage, which is not a lot. But if they start doing some kind of Mystic Forge type stuff and untapping it, maybe we can sneak our way through. Alright, they've got a Manifold Key, so now they can start untapping things. Can also fire off a load of spells to pump up the storm count for our own Flusterstorm, because we've got a bunch of free spells. In fact, they only have 1 coveted jewel left in their deck. It's good news for us. Flusterstorm does not counter Paradox Engine. Just let them go stratospheric with their plays here. Copy Artifact. This is not one we get to interact with using Flusterstorm. It's going to be the One Ring and buying themselves another turn. Copying our coveted jewel. Yep, that's a pretty good one. So no, they do still have 1 coveted jewel potentially in their deck to go and find. Actually, they might have more because one of these is a copy, right? Yeah, we have 1 copy, so they probably have 2 coveted jewel left in their deck. I haven't actually played that many spells, so we will have to do some of our own work with this Gutshot to get our requisite storm count for the Fluster. If only Grapeshot had instant speed timing. I would like to untap their One Ring. Can't do anything about that. 4 cards now. So they got 16 in the grip, 26 left in their deck. GuiBonella. Storm count is 2. They've gone to 7. Phyrexian Metamorph. You cannot interact with that. Could be another coveted jewel. It is. If they go to 5 for this Ancient Tomb and then play another Metamorph, we can try and win the game with Gutshots. It's not how I drew up this game going, but it's a possibility. If we just found a blue card with that Brainstorm ages ago, we would have been in an okay spot now. Reluctant to fire off his Gutshots, because our opponent, if we hit our opponent down low, they're just not going to give us the window where we might be able to cheese them out with the Gutshots. So I'm more encouraged to use the Mutagenic Growth first. Show and Tell. Storm count is 4. Got 1, 2, 3 mana here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So we need to cast this targeting this guy. And we will exile this Mutagenic Growth. So if we cast this, they have to pay 6. They only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they might have some kind of counter magic. So I will fire 1 more off. We don't need to pay the life here, really, do we? Why are we doing that? I guess it doesn't really matter for the most part. We're not going to exile this to the Nivmagus either. Is this enough Storm? Our opponent's got so many cards in hand, though. I think I will fire 1 more of these. Lightning Bolts wouldn't be the worst thing for us to have, but that's not what our deck's about. We're all about the creatures today. Okay, we've got a Flusterstorm on stack for a bunch. Okay, so now we get to exile a bunch of these to our little friend. Just to eat well here. Well, we certainly have a massive creature. So like a Fling would actually look pretty good here. But our opponent does have a whole bunch of cards here. But Show and Tell is probably going to save them quite a lot of mana. We need to see another Show and Tell. Alright, this one happens, I guess. Emrakul, the Eon's Torn. Okay. The One Ring. Another one of those. Now, spending a bunch of our life total into this Emrakul is not the best for us. We probably didn't need to spend that. Although Emrakul is probably just going to rip through us anyway. I don't know what we have here for this situation. Because this One Ring is not going to ping our opponent unless they draw 1 card. We need our opponent to tap their Ancient Tomb. This has protection from spells that are 1 or more colours. So we can block it, survive. But we're going to lose a bunch of things. What does a Brainstorm do for us here? I think we're in a position where we just have to cast it and hope for the best. None of these cards do anything. Can we cheese our opponent with some kind of Mutagenic Growth here? I don't believe we can. So we're going to put back 2 things that are not permanents. Play out some permanents here. So that we have more things to sacrifice. We'll see if our opponent makes a mistake. And blocks. Do you fear the Bone Crusher Giant? We are playing some pretty spicy cards over here, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. But if we had that, we'd attack with everything, right? So they're just going to let this through. Oh yeah, we get the coveted jewels here, don't we, actually? Oh wow, we have lethal damage here. And some Dazes to back it up. Alright. We're discarding. I guess we get rid of this Mutagenic Growth. And we'll move on. As soon as they tap this one ring. Or do we do it as soon as they... Yeah, if they untap and tap this again. So I think we go... Tap this for triple red. I would like to Lava Dart you. What a weird game this has become. We have 5 damage available to us this turn. So we can afford to have 2 of our spells countered. Let's Lava Dart them again. The almighty Lava Dart. What a strange game. Sacrifice one of our Volcanic Islands to Lava Dart them again. Okay. I was not expecting to win that one after the way things went, but we're here. Right, Meltdown seems actively good here, as do the Pyroblasts. I think this is probably a matchup where we're going to require this Force of Will, and there is an argument for these Brazen Borrowers. But I'm less sold on the Brazen Borrowers. I don't think we need Murktides for this matchup. How do I like the Dazes here? My opponent has a lot of mana. I think just having the hard counters from these things is better. Do we want a Brazen Borrower just so we can bounce one problem permanent? I think so. Alright, we're going to go in like this. Do you want the Price of Progress, actually? Let's have those in. That might be better than a Grapeshot. Oh, did I click that in time? I did not click that in time. We do not have the Price of Progress I wanted. Okay. But we've got a Force of Will hand. So if our opponent's got one spooky thing, we can deal with it. The problem is they've kept 7 cards. They might have multiple spooky things. No play on turn 1. What if our opponent's bordering Hydroblasts? Let's get Swifty. Do not think this game is about firing off this gut shot just for 1 damage on the prowess. We need to be able to pump multiple creatures with it. It becomes a lightning bolt if we have... Well, it becomes better than a lightning bolt if we have Slickshot Show-Off. Ancient Tomb, we do want our opponent's mana to hurt them. A Lodestone Golem. How do I actually feel about Lodestone Golem? It's kind of pretty annoying, isn't it? I think we hit this with the Force, pitching Force. Our opponent can force back if they want to. They are going to. Alright, that is awkward for us. I like this other gear that these dual decks have where they can just go into like Lodestone Golem and sometimes Wormcoil as well. Okay. We don't get to cast any spells this turn unless we want to cast the Gut Shot. If we attack with this, we can kill the Lodestone Golem with the Monastery Swiftspear. I think that is worth doing. I don't think our opponent blocks here, they just take it. We're telegraphing exactly Gut Shot here. And they've already seen the Gut Shot, so yeah, they're just going to take the damage. Is there any point pumping some extra damage out right now? I'm not convinced there is. Okay, I think our opponent's just going to win this one in a few turns. They've got a bigger creature than us, and we're missing land drops. That Ancient Tomb damage is real, though. Phyrexian Metamorph. It's going to be another Lodestone Golem. Okay, so spells are not going to be a thing we get to cast a lot of. I think paying 2 life into our shot there just to deal 1 damage to our opponent doesn't really feel worth it to me. That's why I didn't fire off in response and we could have. Mutagenic Growth. No, I think we can concede this one. Yeah, we got done pretty hard there. Okay, so now we're on the play. We can bring back in Dazes and we can get rid of the borrowers. The borrower, I should say. What's our blue count look like? I assume it's pretty good here. 20, that seems pretty reasonable. Do we need grape shots? Is that really what this one's about? It doesn't feel like we're doing big grape shot plays. But that is one of the ways you can get rid of the scary ones, if they're going for lodestones. What if we have some pyrokinesis to get rid of lodestones instead? And then we don't waste our time trying to ponder around and do stuff. We just keep the damages flowing. Like trying to do ponder and stuff underneath lodestone golems doesn't feel like a great way to live our life. Meltdown is nice. We have a Brainstorm which can find a creature. This is acceptable. Lay in the Void. Doesn't really do anything. We brought out our what's it called? Murktide Regent anyway. We're just looking for land number 2 really. And we can start doing some things. I think I want to fire off this Brainstorm at end step. Because if we find 2 mana, that's going to be really clutch here. We found the second mana. That is what we're looking for. So we're not going to need 2 of these birds, are we? Not right now, anyway. So we can put them both on top. Our opponent correctly identified that we might be a Murktide Regent deck. I think that's what that is in aid of. Do I think a Flusterstorm is where I want to be? Or do I just want to get our bird in the plot zone? Let's plot the bird and hope that this Daze can do some work for us. Oh, they missed on the land drop. That's also very good for us. That means our Dazes are very potent. Can I have a Slickshot Show-Off, please? We could have played this one as well, but I think I'm going to plot this one as well. And just get maximum birdage next turn. Possibly enough to kill our opponent if things go to plan. So we've got 2 damage. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage next turn just off of the Lava Dart. And then we can Brainstorm as well. Alright, and Urza Saga. So we need to make a choice about how much mana we have here. So next turn we're going to have 2 birds. That's 2 damage. And then this Brainstorm is going to be another 4 damage. So that's 6 damage. This is going to be 10 damage. That's 16. If we Daze it, that's 20. So I don't think we counterspell this. We can Daze our own Brainstorm for lethal if we need to. Now if they play like a Petal and then try and put a 1 ring on the stack, then yes, I will be counterspelling that. Or at least attempting to. Looks like we're getting that turn we wanted. And the Meltdown. Alright, so we'll cast this guy for free. My favourite cost of creatures is free. Let's try this Brainstorm. We can Daze anything along the lines. Okay, so we'll put back this bird and this Meltdown, I guess. We'll play this Lotus Petal out. We will Lava Dart our opponent here. So this is 14 damage here. We don't get to flash that back, actually, do we? So we need to hold priority here. Cast Meltdown. This is going to be exactly 18 damage. So we could Dazes, or we could just hold our Dazes as additional protection if something weird happens here. Alright, we got the match with some large birds. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed how that one went. Let's go to round 2. We're on the play for round 2, which is very much where we want to be. But our hand does not fill me with joy. I think we're going to mulligan this. We need the threat. Which part of that did you not hear, deck? No, don't like this one either. Okay, we have a Ponder. We can throw away 1 Murktide, 1 Mutagenic Growth. And we can maybe play towards a fairer Murktide style game. This has to get us a Volcanic. Do we want this right now? Or do we wait till the next turn? I think we wait till the next turn and then Ponder. It does punish us if we draw exactly a 1-drop creature and have no follow-up land. But this way, we don't get wastelanded on the first turn cycle. Now, if we get Stifled on the first turn cycle, that's annoying. But I think playing around Wasteland makes more sense than playing around Stifle. Alright, we didn't get Stifled. So I'm looking forward to getting this Ponder over and done with before our opponent gains access to Orcish Bowmasters as a thing. Do I like the Slickshot Show-Off right now? It is a very strong card and synergizes very well with what we're trying to accomplish. But we could play the Swiftspear right now, take this land, play the Swiftspear, and then what are we left with? Not that much. I think we definitely want the land right now. It's just a case of, do we cast the Swiftspear, or do we just drop this, and then next turn we can cast Swiftspear and the Brainstorm? Like, we only miss out on 1 damage by not playing the Swiftspear, which is kind of irrelevant damage. A basic island from our opponent. What does that tell us? Oh, Cycling Control of Khazad-dûm. Okay, so they're just going to run on basics because they're fearing Delver type strategy. Perfectly reasonable. There's that swamp we knew about. A Ponder. That's not where we're going to try and point this Daze. I think I want to fire off the Brainstorm next turn whilst our opponent doesn't have Bowmasters available. The downside of that is we don't get to guarantee that Slickshot bird thing. I think that's an acceptable loss there. Now, we don't really need the bird if we can jam a Murktide into play. Let's get our Brainstorm on. We've got an Entomb over there, have we? Not a fan of that one. Let's bounce that. Right. Force of Will is certainly an interesting one. I don't think the Gut Shot is necessarily where I want to be right now. I think the Nivmagus is what we're pitching to Force of Will. So we want to keep these 2 cards. We can't play Murktide Regent this turn, but we can play it next turn. So maybe it is a Slickshot that goes back, and then we put the Murktide on top. Is it worth firing this off? No. Our opponent plays Orcish Bowmasters. Gutshot is actually a pretty good removal spell in this matchup. Or at least it can be. Hitting our opponent for 2 more damage isn't going to be a break point for their Reanimate either, so we can kind of just ignore that. And save that for later. Like, we do want that to make our Murktide bigger. I don't really want you to have this, do I? You really seem to want to Entomb. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we fire this Gutshot off for 2 life. And then we're good to go there. So I felt they were trying to use those Entombs to shuffle as well. The timing of that in the upkeep. Which makes me think our opponent's got a dead draw this turn. Animate dead on a Troll of Khazad-dûm. Sure, we don't care about that. That is a much smaller threat than what they could have deployed. By firing this off, it means we're going to have a Murktide that's slightly 1 smaller than... I think we are just going to play the Murktide at this size. Because we know we've got the little bird coming next turn. And that can represent a big hit of damage. So if they attack this turn, we can attack for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That seems pretty reasonable. And again, we can snipe down a Bowmasters. Alright, I guess we're not attacking for their wastlanding us. They might just play... Oh, that's a very annoying one. I was going to say they might just play a Grief this turn, but that is certainly a pain. And now they can wasteland us off of being able to cast a Murktide Regent again soon. If they're not firing off the wasteland, it does suggest they have a Bowmasters in hand that they'd rather get out. Or they just... Okay. This Ponder does make me think we're going to get wastelanded though. This Gutshot can answer the Brazen Borrower. Feel like this one has slipped away from us a little bit after our good early start. Yep. That's not what we want to see. Get our 1 point of damage in. Alright, so we can take 3 hits from this troll, but if we fire off a Gutshot for 0 mana, it means we can only take 2 hits. So, a little bit of tension with trying to get the most out of our show-off and also keep ourselves alive for the most amount of turns. Another Swamp Cycle. This can go in Underground Sea. Oh, they're getting the sewers here. And they're doing that again in their upkeep to shuffle off of the Ponder. Also, they didn't draw it. But they didn't shuffle the Ponder either, so. Okay. So play the Surveil land. That means they're not interested in playing the Borrower this turn. A land is kind of essential for us to be able to play this game any longer. That's not a land, but it can sometimes do a funny impression of one if we bounce a land. So Bowmasters, no Bowmasters still. Grief. Yeah, I don't believe we are winning this game. We can just wrap it up and go to the next one. So what is good here? The Surge Extractions are obviously very good. Force of Will is a really annoying one in this matchup because our opponent can just ignore it by like discarding us and giving us a bad time. What I do like is Price of Progress. Our opponent can play around this, but a big burst of damage does feel like a way that we can steal games when they're doing reanimate stuff, so I don't hate that one there. Flusterstorm is pretty nice in this matchup. Gutshot is pretty good too. Is it the Mutagenic Growth or one of the Nivmagus Elementals that goes there? The fact that they're both 1/2s at base stats is really nice though. Mutagenic Growth is a free spell that can do some real work for us. It's just the 0 mana lightning bolt sometimes. Maybe we need the Borrower as well, because they do get a big scary monster in, slowing things down a little bit. Let's get rid of a couple of Mutagenic Growths here. We've got 2 Surgical Extractions, which are going to be free spells in the same sort of slot that we can use for pump. Obviously, it doesn't give +2/+2, but it stops them getting a giant monster. Okay, we can keep this. We are going to lead off on the Volcanic because we want to have access to our Daze. We use this one rather than the fetch so that we have access to a fetch for Brainstorm later on. Then with our little monk friend. No play. This could mean like a fatal push for our friend. Or it could just mean an end of turn Entomb. Cycling a Troll of Khazad-dûm. Okay, I kind of would have preferred an Entomb. That makes our surgical a little more interesting. We can just say no to their big Archon forever. But if they're still reanimating the Troll, we can certainly work with that one. A fatal push. Not a big fan of that. Are we trying to save our Swiftspear. I don't think we can afford to do that. It's just so easy for our opponent to just stick a massive guy and they'll just be behind it all the time. Whereas having a 1-2 and we don't really have the combo potential to make it work doesn't feel particularly special. They shuffle all that Ponder. That's a little bit of relief. A Slickshot Show-Off. I'll play this mountain. I will cast a Show-Off. Let's battle for an almighty 1 point of damage. Also, it must be said, this card has some absolutely sick art that I really like. Look at that. How nice is that? Like a bird wizard. But kind of got some detective vibes with that too. But big fan. A Ponder. This builds our Storm for our Flusterstorm. One issue I see here is that we have a lot of reactive spells, which aren't ever going to pump our creature in an offensive fashion. Another Ponder. I will protect our Slickshot Show-Off from a spell here. If they have a kill space, you do it on their turn rather than ours. It's kind of a bit of a metric you learn from playing against Infect decks. Let's see if they have a removal spell or not. Alright, so we're just slowly shipping our opponent down. Don't particularly care about the Wasteland. Just going to be a hard cast Grief. Or a Murderous Cut. Alright, they would like to try and deal with... Try and put this Troll of Khazad-dûm into play. We'll pay some life. And try and surgically extract that. That also gives us information about our opponent's hand. Which can be pretty clutch here. Our opponent wants to fight over this. We win the fight. We don't really have much to do after we win this fight though. So we've got here Caustic Bronco, Doughty Voidwalker, a couple of Brainstorm. Okay, that's not too scary. They could cast a Caustic Bronco. Is that something I care about? Well, we could Daze this right now. Just not have to worry about it. I like this horse as well. It's cool cards in Legacy these days. Alright, Brainstorm or something. A Slickshot Show-Off. Okay, I think we cast this. We crack this. This isn't going to be an amazing Grapeshot if we fire it off here. But I think it's reasonable enough that I'm going to get my damages. So reducing our opponent's life total to this will be a threshold, right? Because we're going to put them below being able to reanimate an Archon of Cruelty if they like Brainstorm into Entomb and reanimate. That's why we're doing this here. We are shields down for a turn, but we've seen our opponent's hand. They're quite likely to Brainstorm and then just play the Doughty Voidwalker. The lack of like hard direct damage, things like Lightning Bolt and stuff, is something we're kind of missing a bit, I think. I understand having all the like the 0 drops to make it all work, but sometimes you just gotta go. The rate on Lightning Bolt is too good to pass up. Doughty Voidwalker. We do have to watch out about what we play, so we don't want to put anything into the bin that can get messed, that can come back with the Doughty Voidwalker in a scary way. I would like to play a Lotus Petal. It's 4 damage right there. Puts our opponent to 1. Fetch lands are off. We've got a Flusterstorm to protect against anything particularly spooky. So that's have double removal spell really. And all they've got is our Volcanic Island in the void, so we don't really care about that. Alright. Exciting. How do I did board in these Price of Progress. I still think it's right. I think being able to like dome our opponent for a big amount is good when we don't have like lightning bolts and stuff. Do we want Pyrokinesis for the fair plan? Our opponent has shown us some things that makes me kind of want his Pyrokinesis, which maybe is better than Price of Progress. The Daze on the draw is obviously less good too. Maybe we'll keep a couple of price in. Like if our opponent goes low with Reanimate Shenanigans, this can be like 6 damage. Like I'll pay 2 mana for 6 damage, and that might be enough to win a game for us. Okay, we've got a 1-drop. We've got 2 1-drops in fact. And we've got Daze. We can work towards a Murktide at some point. But our opponent is on the play. They didn't do anything on turn 1. That is curious. I don't like having to get the Volk here, but I think it's necessary for our purposes of our Daze. I'll play the Nivmagus Elemental out first. Because if we Daze and our Daze doesn't work, like they have a counterspell for our Daze, then we can just eat it with the Nivmagus. It's sort of, it's not really counterspell protection, but it means that we get a little bit of value if our instants and sorceries get countered. We're just going to see an Entomb here. Just get buried by the Reanimates, half of the deck. But because of the Grease side of the deck, you really can't just have a load of Force of Wills in your deck. Alright, It's an island. So this could be a Cycling, Control of Khazad-dûm, Hydroblast. That's fine. We have threats. That's not what we're lacking, so I'm not going to fight over that. Our opponent's still fetching around the wastelands we don't have, which is hopefully jamming them up from casting things like Doubting Voidwalker and friends. We're going to wasteland first so we can't Daze. Smart. And now we're in a bit of a pickle. Probably looked like they were going to cast a Ponder there and didn't. Which maybe means they have another Hydroblast. Oh, another Daze we don't get to do anything with. Let's play this Swiftspear. It gets Hydroblasted. A Brainstorm. I don't think we have any interaction anyway, so just let it happen. If I could Daze, would I Daze here? I don't think so, but it's debatable. Setting ourselves back lands, we need to get to 2 mana for our show-off. Doesn't feel great. A Daze. Okay. Our opponent's not going to be reanimating a big monster next turn at least, which gives us another turn to try and find a Volcanic Island to turn on our Dazes and get this Slickshot into play. Flooded Strand. So they want to have access to black mana this turn cycle. Or a Surveil land. We at least drew something we can cast. It's just a 1-2. So worst case scenario, our opponent cracks this for an Underground Sea, casts Entomb. That would be the worst case scenario. Although we do have like a bunch of cards in hand, so maybe our opponent's worried that we've got some forces or whatever. They didn't do anything. Okay. Not even the Surveil land. That is interesting. So our opponent is representing Orcish Bowmasters here. Which we haven't seen yet, but must be in their deck. A Gut Shot does help against the Orcish Bowmasters. So we can attack into them. Okay. Just under 6 sewers. It's intriguing to me they didn't get it last time around. I left it on top, so we're unlikely to see an Entomb from our opponent here. To have Entomb, you cast Entomb first, then get the sewers. What's in our opponent's hand? Taking a really passive role that I was not expecting. Let's get the bird. Let's attack with our friends. We've got Daze we can fire off, and a Gut Shot. I do like having lots of free interaction. Even if, you know, it's kind of situational where 1 damage is good or a Daze is good. Just hard casting a Brazen Borrower. Okay. I would very much like to Gut Shot that on my next turn. Another Wasteland is very irritating. Would I like to save my Wasteland or would I like to kill? So we could fight over this now and then have Dazes to protect it. That's a real conundrum. So we could Gut Shot this and then Daze our own Gut Shot. But our Gut Shot is pretty good taking this out, is the issue. But we could just Gut Shot this now, miss out on the damage from these guys. But if they fight back, we Daze. But I think that's just too obvious that our opponent would just be able to just let this go. I don't think this is a big part of their game plan. Yeah, they don't even care. See? They would have happily let that die. These Wastelands are busting our chops. A Fatal Push. We can't Daze that now. Yeah, that's awful. That's real awful for us. And we're 2 blue pips away from casting a Murktide. Okay. So we can cast this Brainstorm into an Orcish Bowmasters because we have the Gut Shot. Okay, I guess we have to put away this Murktide for now. And this Ponder. Am I paying the 2 life price to dodge a Daze here? I think I am. I think if they would have had an Orcish Bowmaster, they would have fired it off in response to our Brainstorm. So now we just get a nice little bit 3 damage chipping away there. Very nice. Yep, no Bowmasters as expected. And now we can hopefully Brainstorm and Ponder our way out of this. A Grief. Okay. Let's try and force some action using this Daze. Oh wow, it just worked. Slightly surprised on that one. I do kind of want the Murktide that's underneath. So I think I'm going to cast a Brainstorm again. Obviously that's the better one to get out of the way when there's no Bowmasters. Mutagenic Growth and a Swiftspear. Okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. So we can put back this Murktide first because we're not really getting to that. But there is a thing maybe we want for later. But if we have 2 Swiftspears now, maybe we just don't need that. But it'd kind of be a nice hammer blow that we can mess with our opponent. I guess we can just put them this way around. Or maybe we can put them the other way around. We can't cast them both anyway. No, let's just put the Murktide on the bottom. We can always choose to keep with the Ponder anyway. Let's play a Swiftspear. Let's get damages in. Make Reanimate a much worse card for them. So we can ponder possibly into another ponder. Actually, no, we can't do that, can we? Because we already know the top cards. All right, but we cast this ponder and we have lethal damage. And we have a Daze to back it up. Daze might not do a lot. Don't want to see a Wasteland again. Animate dead on that guy. Don't care about that. The ponder is on top of our library. Okay, they took the ponder and left the Daze. It's pretty reasonable for us. We're going to force the chump block with the Grief this turn. And maybe we ponder into something that just ends the game. Let's cast a ponder. If our opponent fights over this, it turns on a Daze in our hand as a thing to pump our creatures. So this Mutagenic Growth does just win the game for us. So we go to attacks, and then we can Mutagenic Growth whichever one they don't block. Just like playing good old-fashioned Magic with some combat maps and stuff. Alright, we got the match there. Nice. We took down the big bogeyman of the format. Very nice. Alright, we're 2-0. Let's go to round 3. We're on the play for round 3. We don't have any mana, so this is an obvious mulligan. Okay, I can deal with this one. We can keep this. I think I'm more into having the Dazes than I am having this Flusterstorm. So I think we're going to put back the Fluster for now, because Flusterstorm might not do anything in some matchups. We're going to play our little friend and hope that they don't have like some kind of 0 mana way of dealing with this and also wasteland us. I'm not going to fire off this Mutagenic Growth now. We might be able to use this in a more opportune moment to like dodge a lightning bolt or something. Or we could have an additional prowess guy so this becomes worth a lot more damage. City of Traitors. Alright. Here's one of those guys. Simian Spirit Guide. Is this going to be a Trinisphere or... Okay, it is a Trinisphere. So we cannot allow Trinisphere to resolve. If our opponent has another Spirit Guide, we are just absolutely cooked. Oh, that pause. Had my heart going there. I thought they had it. Alright. A gut shot. That's kind of okay. I think we will brainstorm now. This extra land is very much what I'm about right now. I think the Lava Dart is the thing we want for next turn. Not for next turn, sorry, for the turn after once we already have our stuff going on. We could fire in for more damage here, but I don't think we're going to do that. The downside is if our opponent can make another Trinisphere. But they don't have a Spirit Guide, so unless they play a Soul Land here, I don't believe that they can make a Trinisphere around Daze. Okay, there's a Soul Land. Just another Trinisphere. The One Ring. Obviously, we have to say no to this one as well. Just good old-fashioned Daze gaming. Who doesn't love a nice Force Spike? Draw the Nivmagus this turn. We have the... what's it called? The Lightning... The Lava Spike. Sorry. Next turn. How much damage we can actually put on our opponent next turn? It's quite a lot, right? 2. So this is where 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We can put our opponent to 2 next turn. Because each of these is 2 damage into this guy. So effectively each spell is worth a lightning bolt. So our opponent plays like an Ancient Tomb, a Fury. Okay, we might be able to absolutely blow our opponent out here. How are you going to put this damage? This Mutagenic Growth should do enough here. 2 and 2. You love to see it. I will cast this, targeting this guy. Holding priority, paying 2. This gets Prowess. So this will survive. And then this will eat this and also survive. I'll be honest, that felt pretty gross. And I'm here for it. Play this one out. We bash our opponent for 4 here. Puts him to 12. And then this is 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's lethal next turn, but we can hold these to prevent getting blown out by additional Furies. And if we need to fire them off just to grow our Nivmagus Elemental, we can do that. We can kill a 3-3 if they manage to stick a creature into play. Okay, we're going to see some kind of 3-drop here. Blood Moon. Okay, our opponent is dead. Excellent. These are mountains, but that's all we need. Play another mountain, why not? Red, let's gut shot our opponent. Alright. You see the writing on the wall. Okay, so what looks good in this matchup? Pyrokinesis. They've shown us some scary initiative creature that got pitched earlier. So we're going to want to be able to interact with those. Hydroblast looks pretty great for that too. I don't particularly like Price of Progress here. It's not without merit, but it's also not the most exciting. Flusterstorm looks pretty terrible in this matchup for the most part, so that's an easy cut. I like some of our ability to grow our creatures. I like stuff we can cast. Actually, let's check our blue count for force and things. Daze doesn't feel great here, truth be told. We got 21 cards. We cut a couple of Daze. That seems pretty reasonable. Do we want this one-off Brazen Borrower? I think so. Is it over a Daze? Or is it over a Ponder? I think it might be over a Ponder. Well, we don't have time to ponder around that much. We could bring in the Meltdowns, actually. Yeah, actually, let's get rid of... okay. I should have brought in Meltdowns instead of the Dazes. Because Chalice can be a bit of a pain for us. That was a bit foolish. This hand does not have any land. This is an easy mulligan. This hand is not great, but it is acceptable. So we can go and get our basic island, play our Nivmagus Elemental. But if our opponent's got something that just ruins us on turn 1, then so be it. Chalice of the Void, where X equals 1. That's exactly the sort of thing I was talking about. Yes, that blanks our entire hand, and we forgot to board in the Meltdown, so we're just going to lose to this. I see. We can still cast spells into the Chalice to pump things. What fresh hell is this going to be? I don't think we're beating this Fable and Mirror Breaker. So I think we're going to float mana and then Daze this. They've got a Spirit Guide. Sure, they blow us out. They already spent a Spirit Guide on this. A Murktide Regent. That gives us a reason to dump a load of spells into our graveyard here. So we can play 2 spells. 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets us very close to Murktide. Chalice of the Void where X equals 1. That makes no difference. They've already got one of those. Okay, so we're going to fire off a Brainstorm into this to fuel our Murktide. Because we are close. If we draw another free spell, we can just put a big Murktide into play. We did not draw another free spell. Would I rather put a Hydroblast or a Nivmagus Elemental into the graveyard? It's probably the Hydroblast that gives us the bigger Murktide. Okay. We need our opponent to not cast a Blood Moon this turn, which me saying will automatically make happen. Because that's how magic works sometimes. Alright, they didn't do anything there. So we can wait till our turn to cast the Hydroblast here. Right, 1, 2, 3. So if we go Hydroblast, target this. These triggers go away. Actually, we don't have a creature for the Mutagenic Growth, do we? That's the problem we have. Yeah, that's an error there, isn't it? We can't actually play this Murktide now. Whoops. Yeah, that was an error. We've given our opponent another draw step to find the Blood Moon that buries us. That's sloppy. I'm so used to having creatures in this deck. Alright. We're not going to get super punished for it by the looks of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll leave the Flooded Strand in there anyway. That gives us more things to delve another one if we find one. Okay, we're going to get some sort of 4-drop this turn. The One Ring. That's a pretty good 4-drop, isn't it? Pretty nice. So our poor little Murktide Regent doesn't get to do any damage this turn. Slickshot Show-Off, though. I think we want to put this guy into play rather than plotting him. Plotting him can make Grapeshot better if we draw it. But if our opponent puts a Chalice on 2, it just shuts off this. So I think we just want it in play. I think we will just keep playing out our lands here. There's no point attacking because our opponent's got One Ring protection and they might play something like a Rabble Master, so having a Murktide Regent back to eat that is a little bit safer than the Slickshot Show-Off. We can grow our Slickshot Show-Off's power by casting this Mutagenic Growth, even though it won't resolve. So we've got 6, 7, 8, 9 damage coming. So we've got 2 turns to clock our opponent, and the Ancient Tomb and the One Ring is going to be eating away at their life total in a pretty significant fashion. Oh, they're taking 3 life off the Shatter Skull as well. Fiery Confluence. Deal 1 damage to each creature times 3. So they're paying 4 mana to kill our Slickshot Show-Off. The pump on it is only the front side. It's like Kiln Fiend. It doesn't actually pump the back. I think they should have... Okay, they got a Fury here. They're invoking this Fury. That's going to kill our Murktide, I believe. And there's nothing we can do about that, apart from be sad. That was a pretty good turn for our opponent there. A gut shot. Yeah, it would have been lethal if our opponent didn't do that. They should just be able to run away with this game now. They've activated the One Ring enough times. I'd normally say that by the time you've activated the One Ring 3 times, your chance of winning any game of Magic the Gathering is incredibly high. Caves of Chaos Adventure, is that? Yes. Another copy of the One Ring. Is this going to replace the old one? Or just give them another bubble? Okay, it's going to replace the old one and stop the hemorrhaging of life. So we can't rely on that as a win condition. They might still draw a card from it, but I have to imagine they've got a reasonable amount of stuff going on. Okay, no, they just wanted to reset the number again. So we can still Slickshot Show-Off and do a decent amount of things. Pyrokinesis is not nothing either. So we have 6 damage if we can find a Slickshot Show-Off, provided we can have a creature of theirs to target with Pyrokinesis. Another copy of the One Ring. Okay, so we can't Slickshot Show-Off. Pyrokinesis only hits creatures as well, so we can't randomly dome our opponent for 4 if they go low. They've only got one Ring left in their deck maximum, so they might struggle to reset this one. They should be able to win with whatever they can get out of it. A Flooded Strand. Are we playing this? I guess this allows us to hard cast a Pyrokinesis, which might be relevant. We need that One Ring and Ancient Tomb to kill our opponent, or at least put ourselves in a position where we can draw Grapeshot to finish them off, which we're pretty close to. Now we can do 4, and that'll put our opponent to 2, so if they tap this Ancient Tomb, our Grapeshot will be lethal. If they play a creature for us to Pyrokinesis, that is. A Fury. That's a creature for us to Pyrokinesis. I know they didn't tap their Ancient Tomb, but what are you going to do about it, I suppose? So cracking this fetch does change the clock by a turn. So I don't think we're cracking it. A Gut Shot. Okay. So we can definitely kill them with a Grapeshot. Jump in the One Ring. A Broadside Bombardiers. That, to me, is scarier than the Fury. Fury hits for 6 a turn. How much does this guy hit for? This guy allows them to get rid of the One Ring. So I think we are just going to Pyrokinesis. Do I want to crack this? We've already discussed that it takes a turn off of our clock. There's no point putting damage on this, is there? Just get rid of this. We're kind of relying on our opponent's One Ring to do the work for us. They're probably interested why we didn't pay for it with mana. It does change the clock, so it probably just looked at our life total and probably worked that out. A Trinisphere. That does make the old Grapeshot a little trickier to pull off. Another Gut Shot. These do not help us out here. Due to the Trinisphere, we're probably going to fire off one of these Gut Shots at our opponent just so that we have a larger Murktide Regent if required. We need a Murktide Regent that lives through Fury, I think. Tap in the One Ring. They need to find a Broadside Bombardiers or another copy of the One Ring, or a way that can kill us this turn. So like the Fiery Confluence does 6, that's 1 less than our life total in theory. So maybe we get there through this One Ring. This long pause of our opponent is giving me some amount of hope they didn't find the immediate thing that they would just slam and win the game with. If we had a Broadside Bombardiers, they'd just cast it and kill us. So I think we're going to get at least one more draw step. Well, that's all we really have in us at this point, I think. Right, they played a City of Traitors, so mana is certainly not a sticking point for them. They found another copy of the One Ring. Fiery Confluence, 2 damage to each opponent. They have to have another one of those to kill us. They don't have the red because it's triple red on that one. No, it's double red actually, right? No, they do have the red for it. So if they have another one of those, they can just kill us. Not cracking that fetch feels like a very good decision. Opponent's going to have to go to discard here. So the One Ring will kill them in their upkeep. We can cast this guy. We can't crack this to cast a Gut Shot. With the Trinisphere, if we attack for 1, what's the difference? They're going to die to their own One Ring anyway. We just keep this guy back. Just in case somehow they wriggle out of it, we can at least chump block their Fury for a turn. Okay, they're gonning our creature. How are you going to deal with this One Ring trigger though? That's what I want to know about. I'm going to draw some cards. Do they have any direct damage in their deck? I don't believe they do. Alright, so we got the match there. We should have brought in the Meltdowns. That was just an error by my part. But that aside, the actual games I thought we played quite well. And by not cracking this fetch was the difference. The idea of fetching to thin is not a thing that people should really be doing unless it's the last turn. you have to try and find some action. Alright, let's go to round 4. We're currently 3-0, loving this deck. We're into round 4, and our opponent has connected, but they don't seem to be in the game. And they've nearly hit the 5 minutes of sitting around. So we'll see how this one pans out. Right, our opponent has finally started doing some stuff, so we can keep our hand, we can go get Island Ponder, and we'll just be looking for lands to keep things going. We probably have to get a basic island, unless our opponent shows us that they're very much not a wasteland deck, straight up. So Kenzan, that exists only in 2 different decks. And that's sometimes Mono Red Prison, and sometimes Painter. Neither of those are decks that I care about Wasteland for, but I do care about Blood Moon. I think we are still on the basic island here and casting the Ponder. 2 lands is exactly what I was looking for, so let's just have these on top, and away we go. I would like to not have to Daze anything this turn so we can do the Slickshot Show-Off next turn. A Trinisphere. Well, we have to answer this, don't we? If they have a Semi-Spirit Guide, then we're sad. They didn't have it. Excellent. So we've got another bird on top of our deck. We don't really want to draw another bird. So we're going to play this, crack this right now, and just go and get ourselves the Volcanic. We've already got the island in hand, so we can just play that when the time is right. But we want to make sure we have an island in play for our Daze. Okay, they play that mountain and let their City of Traitors die without floating. That is an interesting one. Alright, our opponent's had enough, and they've scooped that up. Okay. So they look like they're playing a red prison deck to me, which means we want potentially these sorts of things. Depending on how prisony they are, depends on if we want the Pyrokinesis or not. What do I not particularly like in this one? The Dazes on the draw feel a bit bad here. That gives us 5 more cards to find slots for. I'm not a big fan of the Flusterstorms either, so they can go. That gives us 1 more cut. So 1 more cut is probably looking like a Ponder or a Mutagenic Growth. I think Mutagenic Growth is quite nice to save from things like Fury, so I'm not so opposed to that one. Maybe it's just 1 Ponder. I think we've got plenty of blue cards here. Do a quick count to make sure. 19 plus the 4 the elemental, that's loads. I think we'll keep this. We can maybe think about Daze on the play, but hopefully we can just win this game and not have to think about that. We've got a Force of Will for the first thing. We've got a threat. We've got our best threat. We've got a little bit of way of pumping some stuff. This seems fine to me. Our opponent's mulligan to 6. Is it a Chalice? It is. Okay. We have to say no to Chalice. We've seen how much Chalice just wrecks us. So we do not want that in play. Just getting the Swiftspear in play is going to be pretty handy here. We do need to find another land. If we can find another land, we can plot the Slickshot Show-Off, and then we can have a really big turn with 2 gut shots and a Grapeshot. Our opponent doesn't have a follow-up here. That's good news for us. We found the land. Let's plot this one. Yeah, so next turn, how much damage have we got here? So we got 2 damage, and then this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. That's 6. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, so that's 10. And then this is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 17 damage next turn, if I can do maths. Now, if this is a Trinisphere, then all that working that maths out for nothing. It's bad. The One Ring. Really the bane of my existence, this league. Like, we are beating some of these One Ring decks, but they're very annoying. So now we have a choice of, are we playing out our bird to get around Trinisphere, but playing into a Fury? Or do we leave it in there so we can have like a big wombo turn? Alright. Our opponent's got a One Ring in, so we've got a nice little bubble. If we draw a land, then we don't have to decide about playing around the Trinisphere as much. Although if we play the Slickshot into a Trinisphere, we don't really get to pump it, but if we play it first, then we do get to pump it through a Trinisphere at least once. So, yeah, kind of a tough call. Okay, I think given that we have the Swiftspear now, we can fire this Swiftspear in and not worry about the bird just yet. It is annoying if a Trinus is there, but I don't want to play 3. If we play the third threat out now, it makes our Grapeshot. I think we need to hold up for the potential of having like a big wombo turn, with our opponents used an awful lot of their clock at this point. There's no point attacking here because the One Ring is just going to prevent that. We may as well keep our blockers back in case there's some sort of hasty thing. We could double block a Broadside Bombardier and maybe throw off their game by gut-shotting and pumping our guys. Yeah, I think we have lethal damage next turn, right? Okay, there's the Fury we're worried about. So if they go 2 and 2, we just gut-shot here. 2 and 2. Okay, we'll let this evoke resolve. And then we will gut-shot our opponent once. This is why this is much cleaner to play the Swiftspear out rather than the bird. Gutshot, doing so much work today. I've never seen Gutshot work so hard before. Another Fury. Okay. So this one is going to double up again and kill them. But that's unfortunate. But that's why we still got the Show-Off. Another free spell would be quite nice here. Not a free spell. I'm debating whether or not I'm doing this now. So this is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Is that good enough? I think it's fine. It's not big damages by any stretch of the imagination. But it's certainly sending a message. May all of your lands be ancient tombs. Our opponent's drawing some more cards over there. Alright, our opponent has just given up there and conceded the match. They were playing very slowly. Like you can see they've only got 8 minutes and we've got 20 minutes. So I don't know if something was going on in their life or whatever, or they're double queuing. Nevertheless, that puts us to a pretty cheeky 4-0. So now we're playing for a trophy with this weird and wonderful deck. So let's see if we can grab it. Alright, we're into the trophy match. I do not like this hand. I want something which can actually attack our opponents, because our deck's got a lot of like bad cards that require us to have some kind of threat. Alright, I'll keep this. I think the Flusterstorm is the most marginal card here, although it is very good with the Nivmagus sometimes. We could throw away the Murktide and then pitch the Fluster to the Force if we have to. It should probably just be the Fluster though. I don't think I want to try and cheese it with that. Maybe I'm supposed to be trying to cheese it there, but... Okay. There's a swamp from our opponent. A Cabal Therapy. I don't think... Well, they could name Force of Will here. That's kind of probably the standard name. It's either that or Brainstorm. Yeah, okay, so they hit with their Force. Oakley dokley. Not the ideal situation for us. Let's get a little friend out. Kind of wish we had the Flusterstorm now. We could do a really big one and just make our guy enormous. Maybe we were supposed to cheese. Okay, so we're some sort of Jund. Veteran Explorer, you say. Alright, we're into Nick Fit territory. What are they going to name here? We get 2 basics, so that's pretty exciting. This allows us to Brainstorm, potentially. And we can hide a card here if we need to. And we've got the Gutshot for a Bowmaster, so I don't care about that. A Force of Will. And keep that and the Murktide. Definitely don't need this other Murktide. Let's throw back a Gutshot here. Let's see what they name. No, they still name Force of Will. They named the card we found. They really want to resolve something here. A Mayhem Devil. Okay, I officially like what our opponent is up to over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we can make a Murktide now. This gives them a ping. Go into our dome. Understandable. This Volcanic Island. Would I like to save some mana here? I think so. The 1 point of damage might end up being really relevant. We can attack here. They're very unlikely to block, given they know what we have here. Oh, they are blocking. That's very interesting. Okay, they've decided against it. So we can exile this and grow our guy permanently instead of temporarily. Exiling cards means you're not feeding a future Murktide though. A Minscan Boo. That's a pretty scary customer. Now, fortunately, we have a Gutshot for this. And then we can crash into the Minscan Boo in a sec. Opponent's got 1 red mana available. I don't think they're going to have main deck Pyroblast. So I think we're okay with our Murktide Regent attacking here. Let's cast a Brainstorm first. Mutagenic Growth I like. Ponder I like. Do I like Ponder more than Mutagenic Growth? I think so. Let's cast this Ponder. We're almost certainly shuffling here. Another Nivmagus. Murktide goes at Minsk and Boo. And the other one goes at their face. Looking forward to play out another little friend. Two of these not great, because each one only gets to exile one thing. It's not like the prowess things where each one gets to pump. Maybe you can bash me for 3. We got 10 damage coming through. A Greater Gargadon has been suspended. Okay, so our opponent can rattle off quite a lot of pings if they want to blow up all their lands. Okay, they're going for our face, which is somewhat scary. What does this do? Bloodthirst X. That's your opponent's turn. Deal 2 damage random. Okay, so it deals a lot of damage unless I sacrifice a guy. This has menace, so probably not blocking it anyway. Oh, okay. It's whenever this is dealt damage, it does some scary things. So if we take 7 here, that's probably not very good for us, is it? Is this Nivmagus Elemental actually doing anything for us? How are we beating this Indoraptor? Like, we're probably just losing a bunch of things, because otherwise they're just going to kill us. So I take 7 here, and then they sacrifice another permanent, ping their raptor, we lose our guy, sacrifice another permanent, ping their raptor, we die. That doesn't seem great for us. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing though. You're not really seeing this card do anything ever before. This is pretty exciting. And the reason that it kills us when it's not in play is because it uses last turn information and adds 7 power. Okay. That was not the one we wanted there, was it? Okay, Hydroblasts and Pyrokinesis feel like our friend here. Price Progress unlikely to do what it needs to. I think the Force of Will is probably pretty handy. Flusterstorms look bad, so they can come out. Daze, not great into what our opponent's up to. But not without merit. I quite like the Borrowers, though. Do I want any sort of surgical extraction type effect? I don't think that's what I'm about. Right, let's just ball in with this. Like, yes, you can keep your surgical extractions in and kind of do... this hand is bad. You can keep your surgical extractions in and try and cheese people, but I don't think that's the way to go. Okay, we're going to be asking our Brainstorm to do some work, but that's what Brainstorm was made for. We'll keep this, and I guess we get rid of one of these gut shots. Okay, we're in Catacombs. What are we going to see here? I think we're going to Brainstorm on our turn, just to see maximum cards. Punished if we draw a Slickshot Show-Off right now. Let's cast a Brainstorm. What is this fresh hell that our opponent is going to unleash upon us? Nothing. Okay. I think we need these lands. Let's grab this. Jam. A small little friend. So next turn we can play a Murktide and swing for a bunch with this Swiftspear. It does take a reasonable amount of our resources to do that though. Another Murktide. Right, let's ping our opponent. I've got a feeling that our opponent is going to win this game. Their deck, it just goes bigger than ours, and that's a bit of a problem for us. Right, this doesn't actually get us the... No, this doesn't actually get us where we need to go. Attack with this. So our opponent doesn't need blocking. We'll Lava Dart them one time. This is just to make sure we can Murktide Regent next turn. So we can float mana and sacrifice the Volk. Blue mana. Leovold, Emissary of Trest. Our opponent's got a lot of cards anyway. I don't think this is coming down to how many cards our opponent has. It's going to come down to specific cards instead. Obviously, they're going to have more chance of having specific cards. Okay. Let's let our opponent draw some cards. I don't like it, but it's the thing we have. So Nick Fit is very good at beating up on decks that look a bit like ours, where we're trying to sort of go under other people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we're not going to flash back the Lava Dart. I think we're just going to make a Murktide here. Our Swiftspear doesn't get to attack, although we could attack here, and if our opponent blocks, I think if we attack here, we might be able to bait our opponent. I think they're going to let this 2 damage through. I would not block with the Leovold in this situation, but if they just read our... Okay, they've just read our bluff. Okay, damn. I was trying to get cheeky there, and it did not work. That is very unfortunate for us. Now, if they have a Shoulder's Edict, we've absolutely screwed the pooch there. Maybe that was a really greedy attack. I would never be blocking that Monastery Swiftspear in that situation. So our ponder doesn't really do anything. Force of Will is quite nice, though. There's a 2-turn clock backed by Force of Will. Okay. Step 1. Swamp. No play. Maybe they're just getting damage in first. Sure, I'll happily take 3 damage here. Something big. Chaos Defiler. This is not allowed in... Alright, we got that one. Ooh. Okay. So we've also seen the Leovold. Is Leovold... And we've also seen some other blue... I think they are just splashing for Leovold. I don't believe they're a full-on blue deck. I don't think we want... Like, if they're a Nick Fit deck, they're going to have a lot of basics. So, yes, we could randomly dome them with Price of Progress, but I don't think that's a reliable route for this game to go. Maybe the Daze are okay if they're trying to play, like, higher-end stuff. We can just sort of shut that down, perhaps. But what would we be boarding out for these Dazes if we wanted more? I'm not sure we do want more. Would I like to have a Miser's Price of Progress as opposed to a Miser's Daze? Maybe. I think we might be able to steal a game with Price of Progress if things go well for us. I think the upside of Price of Progress could be a lot higher. No land, so this is an easy mulligan. Okay, I like this one. We keep this. How do I feel about this hand? I would love to keep this as a 7. This would be a great 7. The turn 1 Swiftspear, hold this up. Maybe we pitch a land. Maybe that's greedy, and we pitch the... I guess we have to pitch the Petal there. There's an argument for keeping the Petal. And if we draw a land, then that's going to be a thing that would have been better for us and just be free prowess. But just making sure we have actual lands to play the game on feels like an essential thing that we shouldn't be skimping on. Get Swiftspear down. So we've got Slickshot Show-Off with Mutagenic Growth and Gutshot. That's quite a lot of damage. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage next turn. Harvester of Misery. Let's save our creature here. That does reduce the amount of damage we get to do with our Slickshot Show-Off, unfortunately. Right, let's get a bird friend going. So Mutagenic Growth might be a thing that can save our creatures, so I am going to hold on to this. And we're just going to come in for 2 this turn. Rather than an additional, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that it would be. Like, if our opponent's got creature size-based removal, being able to save our creatures could be good here. So if they, like, reanimate this Harvester, we can Mutagenic Growth our Slickshot. A Mayhem Devil. Okay. So we can bounce this and crash for some decent damage. Hydroblast is a very good one here. I think I would rather... Would I rather bounce this and hold up a Hydroblast? Hydroblast counters Chaos Defiler. I think we'll Petty Theft this and get the tempo play going. Okay, so we'll yield to this one. Yield to this one. So this is 5 damage. We can deal another 5 with this Mutagenic Growth, but I think the same logic from last turn holds true. We might need to protect from another Harvester of Misery or whatever. Or a reanimation spell that would wipe both of our guys. We can stop that from doing it. Obviously, they still have a 5/4 at that point, which isn't the best for us. A Mayhem Devil. So they can sacrifice this and ping this down for 1. That doesn't stop. I'd rather use this offensively, if possible. If we can go to our turn. We don't want to sacrifice this, though. Okay, I like the Brainstorm here. Just get them DMGs coming in. Right, I think we put these 2 back. Cast this Hydroblast here. And then we can cruise through for the win, perhaps. Track this. Now there's no sacrifice triggery stuff going on. Let's go for this Brainstorm. That gives us lethal damage now, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. Sure. About like that. Go to attacks. Have lethal. Have we managed to muster up a trophy with Slickshot Show-Off? Oh, our opponent's got something. Is this a Lightning Bolt? It's a Dryad Arbor. We still beat that because of Mutagenic Growth. Alright. Don't mind if I do. A tasty little trophy. All right, so let's have a little look at our matchup history as well. So 2-1, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-1. Now, one of those was a person who kind of didn't really feel very present and kind of left the game at a weird point. So I don't think that was necessarily a great showing there. But we did beat the same matchup earlier on in the league. So I feel okay with how that matchup went. Also, when we played against the blue-black scam deck, they took some kind of interesting slower lines that I wasn't expecting. I thought they would just try and go for like more of a racy plan. And it did benefit us. They didn't do that. So what do I think of this deck? Well, obviously, you know, scoreboard is pretty good. And there were a few times that each part of the deck did its thing, right? So we had a few Nivmagus Elemental doing some good stuff. We had some nice, like, prowess going off with this. A lot of the damage was just Slickshot, just being an absolute house and just getting it done. We did also get lucky where one opponent tapped the One Ring a million times and didn't find anything and died to it. So I don't necessarily think this deck is like, oh yeah, look at this is an obvious 5-0 deck. And it's not necessarily something I'd be excited to play in a higher level event. I think there's, you know, we are playing some very low power Magic the Gathering cards here in order to make it work. And when it works, it's going to be alright. But there are going to be those times where it doesn't. So what do I think could improve this deck? So I think there's a lot of different ideas that I had floating around my head when I first saw this card. One of them was just to have like a lot more fast mana and be playing like a Echo of Eons, Lion's Eye Diamond style deck. So you could play this and then wheel and do this, and you could probably run this in like a Grixis shell with Orcish Bowmasters, where your wheel is either going to fuel this so it's lethal or fuel your Bowmasters so it's lethal, and you can kind of do that, which is something I would like to try at some point. The other option was to play basically the old blue-red Delver decks, where instead of running Wastelands and things, you would run more burn spells, and instead of having things like Unholy Heat, again, you'd just be running more burn spells and have something a bit like that. And like this Nivmagus Elemental was fine, but a lot of the time I thought maybe if we just had a Delver of Secrets in there, that would be better, right? Our deck has a lot of stuff that's going to flip Delver. So what, 31 cards? Sorry, let me just readjust some of these things. I moved it to count the cards. So yeah, 31 cards that would flip a Delver of Secrets. And sure, the Nivmagus Elemental can sometimes do some really bonkers stuff, but Delver of Secrets is just more reliable and just a better card in general, so I think I'd be more interested in just having a Delver of Secrets and playing more like the old Delver decks. Because there was a while where there was a blue-red Delver deck that played, there was a 2-mana 1/3 Prowess guy with flying that people were playing in blue-red Delver for a while. This is obviously, you know, we're talking quite a while back. I can't remember what set it was from. Maybe like, I'm trying to remember when that Prowess was. Maybe like around original Kaladesh-ish. I don't think it was that set, but it was around that sort of time. I don't know if they've even revisited Kaladesh or not. But anyway, so that deck was fine, and it was running like Chain Lightnings and stuff, and I did feel that we were missing some Lightning Bolt action a little bit. I do like Gutshot in the meta to an extent. I think being able to kill Orcish Bowmasters quite cleanly with a card like this feels quite nice. Especially since it's free, so you can cantrip away and just know that you've got it in your back pocket. But then you have the issue of how many decks are running things that are X1s because of Bowmasters, and it's not as many as there used to be, so there's less targets for Gutshot outside of that. But we're quite happy to point into our opponent's face the way our deck works, so I don't think it's too bad. And it can kill a Thalia for 1 mana, which is really key, because that's a card that can shut down what we're doing quite a bit. The Grapeshot didn't really seem to go anywhere. I feel if you want to do the Grapeshot thing, you probably need to lean into like Echo of Eons, Lion's Eye Diamonds sort of jam. So these could just be, you know, a couple of Lightning Bolts, and they're going to be doing similar amounts of damage. Like, we'll lose the ability to do like a big Nivmagus thing, but that never really felt like what we're up to. And the Flusterstorm is kind of similar. Like, it's trying to fuel the Nivmagus Elemental, and sometimes it'll be good. Like, we did have one game where we pumped a whole bunch into it, but we didn't win that game. No, we did win that game with burn spells, right? But the Nivmagus Elemental being big didn't do anything, if I remember rightly. So there's definitely some costs to deck building costs to playing a deck that looks like this, and I don't think it's worth the squeeze. Now, yes, we did get a trophy, but you know, it's only a league at the end of the day. It's not like a challenge or anything. And I think we could improve this deck by playing some Delvers or by playing the LED build. And I would like to play either of those builds at some point. And if you have a more refined sort of Grixis Slickshot Show-Off list that you're interested in wanting to see, by all means send it my way. I'm already sort of building Modern Horizons decks, so if somebody already has one to hand, I'd like to grab that and maybe I can record with it before Modern Horizons drops, but we'll see. Nevertheless, what I will say about this deck is I really did enjoy it. I never really enjoyed the old blue-red burn Delver decks, whereas this feels like it's doing, you know, a bit of sillier stuff, and the speed of the format means that having free interaction is really good at the moment, and leaning into that was definitely helpful. I did find some tension with having these spells to protect our creatures by prowess and growing them wasn't the freest thing in the world. So this would cut us off from damage to protect our guys that weren't necessarily that big without them anyway. So a little bit of tension, maybe some kind of way of gassing up so that we can then throw a whole load of new stuff at our opponent. Like, if Expressive Iteration was still legal, you'd absolutely snap it off in this deck. But maybe you could even play something like a Ren's Resolve type card here. That might be quite interesting. I don't think you want Questing Druid. And I think if you're playing Delver as well, you want to have Delver here, so you want like a Ren's Resolve type effect. And that would be quite good, because that gives you 2 turns to play the cards. But just some thoughts on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. It was quite fun. It was my first try with a Slickshot Show-Off deck. And it did not disappoint. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this one. And if you didn't, maybe you can anyway. It does help the channel. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel. A mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles. And lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.